Thanks, everyone.
Welcome. We're excited to be here trialing the live online classroom studio to see if it's something that we'll use for future events. We're excited to have an Alumni New Venture competition past winners panel here today. We have a wonderfully diverse group of alumni founders. If it seems a little strange to you, it's definitely a little strange to us, so let's have some fun with this today. I'm Lori Bishop. I'm the Associate Director for Alumni Programs in the Rock Center for Entrepreneurship here at HBS. And the Rock Center was started in 2003 through a generous donation by Arthur Rock, one of the first and most prolific venture capitalists out in Silicon Valley. I did have the great pleasure of meeting him in person this summer and having a great one-on-one conversation, and happy to report at the wonderful age of 97, he's still doing well. So that was such an honor, and I always have to put that in all my talks. The Rock Center is here to support students and alumni who are starting, building, or investing in high-growth ventures. We have a variety of programs that independently support students and alumni, and some of them include the Rock Summer Fellows Program, our Rock Accelerator, a robust Entrepreneur in Residence and Venture Capital Advisor Partner Program, our REAP program, which supports entrepreneurs who are alumni, so there are advisors put in place for that. We started a Rock on the Road, let's call it a program for a lack of a better word, but where we're going out to different locations around the world, and stay tuned for where we're going next, but just a hint. It includes London, Austin, Texas, Miami, Southern California, New York, and San Francisco, to name a few. And we'd love to have you there with us. This event is being recorded, and we will be sharing the recording. One of our major things that we do, or programs that we offer, is our New Venture competition, of course, which is why we're here today. In our mission, we do work closely with the Harvard Innovation Labs, the other HBS initiatives, alumni relations, of course, and the new GRID program at the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences to support alumni throughout the school. Today, of course, we're here to talk about the New Venture competition, which is a wonderful collaboration with the Alumni Relations Clubs and Associations team, as well as alumni clubs throughout the world. And just as a reminder, our deadline for the 2024 Alumni New Venture competition is January 26th. As far as numbers go, we've had almost 1,900, almost 2,000 applicants over the course of time, which is about 13 years. And then some updated figures on the regional finalists. 73% are still in business. They've generated at least 8,200 jobs. And of the ones that have posted fundraising, or funds that they've raised, it was over $2.6 billion. And 34% of the companies who were in the finals or were regional finalists had at least one female founder. 16%, so 25 of them, were acquired by other companies. And 2 of them have IPO'd. So some great numbers and testimonials to the power of the New Venture competition. Here with me today are many people who are involved with the aNVC. So I'd like to have the people here with me in person and introduce themselves first, and then we'll head online.
Hi everyone, I'm Christina Anderson. I work on the HBS Clubs and Associations team, and I've been working very closely with Lori and Mary Rose and Vinay to support the competition this year. And we've started having our monthly regional lead calls and are trying to build a really good foundation for this year moving forward now that we have a full team. Vinay has been by himself for the last year, so we are fully staffed and trying to work as hard as we can to, like I said, build a good foundation with everyone and support all of our alumni to the best of our ability. So we're very excited to be here and to support all of you and all of you that hope to apply to the competition this year. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Rose St. Cyr, and I work for the Rock Center for Entrepreneurship, supporting Lori Bishop with our alumni programming. And I'm looking forward to working with you all this year as we kick off the Alumni New Venture competition.
Thank you. And online, we'll have Vinay kick off the online team.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I'm Vinay Davidanam from the Alumni Clubs and Associations team. I'm going to call out an elephant in the room, which is the headline on the New York Times is a story about tech startups running out of time and money. And so I've been privileged to work here since 2021 and previously at Harvard. But bringing folks together today and leaning on that support, both from the school and from each other, is an essential part of why we run this program and why the clubs are such great supports in sort of your local area and globally. So we do this every year as sort of a part of understanding the interest in entrepreneurship, but also as a reminder that there are resources here at the school and within our club's network and within your own alumni network. So it's huge to see you all today, and for those that'll be watching the recording, we're excited for you all to participate. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Vinay. And I see Joe here, who's one of our leads for the Alumni Clubs regions. So Joe, if you want to say a couple words.
This is I think my fourth year of being a co-chair under this competition. It's always a lot of fun. I mean, I think the thing I enjoy the most is being around really smart people with creative ideas, neither of which I am, to be able to, kind of just move people along and, encourage the whole ecosystem of startups.
Thank you. And you're the lead for the Southern California?
Yeah, for Southern California. And we've actually been pretty lucky in that we've had a number of our companies make it to the finals and even place in those, so that's nice.
Great, thanks, Joe. And is there anyone else here who's a regional lead? It's a little overwhelming to look at the board here. I do have my list, but you want to? Do you see? Who do you see? Is that Pooch? I don't think that's Pooch. No. Okay, they did sign up. They might show up later. So, but thank you so much, Joe, for being here. And just to tell you how the rest of the event will go, we're going to start our panel discussion, and then we're going to leave about 15 to 20 minutes for question and answers. So be sure to use the chat. Mary Rose will take over the Q&A at that point. And I'd like to jump right into our panel discussion. So first, we'd like to have each of you, thank you very much for being here, of course. We really appreciate your time and sharing your insights. But first, we'd like to just have you introduce yourselves. So if we could get started with Katrin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us as well. It's always fun to reconnect. My name is Katrin Alberding. I'm based in Berlin, Germany, where it's already very dark. I'm the co-founder of Canby, together with Clemens Ramey. We both graduated from HBS in 2011. Canby is a health tech company focusing on home care services. So we basically employ an army of nurses going to the home of patients and making sure they can stay as long as possible without having to move to a stationary care at home and receiving healthcare at home. And of course, we have invested heavily and are still investing heavily into digital solutions to innovate in this space, bring new solutions to patients, and also employ solutions that exist more efficiently, since we also have a huge shortage of nurses in Germany, and I guess as it is everywhere else as well. And we participated in aNVC in Europe in 2020, where we were the winner that year.
Thank you, Katrin. And Parker?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I've been a founder a few times. Actually, the only thing I've ever done. Out of university, I started an auto finance company called First Health Financial. I've had a lot of success with that company. I think we're one of the 10 biggest independent auto finance companies in America today. And the company focuses on different niches within this massive, very sleepy asset class. So anything having to do with car dealerships, auto insurance, auto loans has been the focus for us. Went to HBS in 2012, and then after I started Cobley, which is an IoT platform for any sort of physical operation, whether it be telecom companies, energy, construction. We put cameras, a number of different sensors, trying to turn that into intelligence for these customers. We won the aNVC in 2016. We were the first company from Latin America to do so, and I'm calling from São Paulo, Brazil, where I reside with my family.
Thank you. And let's hear from Joanna.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. I'm Joanna. I am the co-founder of a food technology company called the Better Meat Co. And what we do is we use biotechnology to grow alternative protein ingredients from mycelium, which is the root system of fungi. We're a B2B company. Our customers are large food companies who want better alternative protein agreements. And we started the company about 6 years ago, and I was a couple of years out of HBS. I was the class of 2016, and I met my co-founder a couple of years into that. I had gone into consulting like a lot of people do. And so we did the New Venture competition in Northern California in, I believe it was 2018. And so we won the regional and then went to Boston for the final and didn't win that, but it was a great experience. And let's see, I'm based out of Sacramento, California.
Great. Thanks, Joanna. And Erica.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erica Tuggle, founder and CEO of Cook Connect. I came out of HBS in 2010 and actually didn't start a company, but went into corporate. I was in corporate America working in the food and beverage industry for over 10 years before I decided to jump on a problem that I was consistently seeing in a lot of my food work at the Coca-Cola company. And so I started Cook Connect just a little under 2 years ago. And Cook Connect is essentially a company that connects busy people. We focus on dual income families because they seem to be some of the busiest. And we connect them with in-home personal cooking services that are provided by professional cooks in and around your community who are enabled by our platform to provide those services with excellence. We do that in the interest of driving better health for our users, but also in the interest of creating economic opportunity for the cooks on our platform. We were a part of the New Venture competition here in the Southeast and had the great opportunity there to be recognized with the Audience Choice Award and continuing to grow our business from that point.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we have a question to kick off that's more general, and we'd love to hear from each one of you. If you can remember, why did you enter the Alumni New Venture competition when you did? Feel free to, if someone wants to jump right in.
I'm happy to start. So for us, we didn't have a company at that point. We had an idea, and that's also kind of the pitch deck that we pitched at the aNVC competition as what we ended up being our first pitch to investors and raising pre-seed capital on just a presentation in the end. That was very helpful for us as a ground for testing the idea, also because in Germany we have a lot of international investors as well that don't necessarily understand the healthcare space that well in Germany. So we could practice a little bit on how to position the story, which questions would come up, and it was a very safe area for us to try this out rather than going to investors straight away with a very smart audience and good questions coming our way and just some practice in the storyline. And also we had in mind, obviously, to potentially also find some investors. We had some investor conversations out of it and afterwards some introductions. I think none of them ended up being an investor in the end, but obviously on that route, it's really helpful to speak to anyone who can give you any thoughts, feedback, or especially the questions I found really helpful to see what are the gaps that we need to fill in our storyline and where do we need to put some more thought into it. So it was really the start of our development and pitch deck in the end that we came in with, and that we got exactly out of this aNVC competition what we wanted to get out of it, and also building the team, right? Building up as a partnership again, because Clemens and I had graduated in 2011. We did the pitch in 2020, so we ended up having good practice together as a team again and growing together that way.
Great, thanks for sharing that. And Parker, did you want to go next? You had unmuted before.
Sure. It's I mean, in an early stage company, you're trying to please three stakeholders who are all very hard to please, right? Your investors, your employees and future employees, and your customers. And I thought it was just an amazing way to do all three of those things, right? At the beginning, we only had employees. We didn't have investors or customers quite yet. And it was both kind of going through is like, what is our value proposition for honestly all three of those stakeholders, and really thinking deeply through. It's almost similar to applying a business score. You have to be really retrospective about who you are and what you're doing, and thinking about the why and stuff like that. And then obviously bringing that exposure is really important for investors, and really important for new employees. The customers came later, but those were 2 points where we're looking for really good exposure. We're looking for a stage to talk about what we were doing, and looking for, any sort of brand association that could get us off that cold start problem in front of those two important stakeholders.
Great. Thank you. Joanna or Erica?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I agree completely with what Katrin and Parker have said, and the only other thing I would add is because I guess the regional competitions, they are regional, it's a good opportunity to just meet other alumni that have started companies in your area. And doing this it's very lonely, and it can be there are a lot of highs and lows, and so it's just nice to be able to connect with people in the area that understand what you're going through, and have that common background.
Great.
Yeah, similar. Agree with a lot of what's said. I would say for us, we were, rounding out our first year, and had just finished the Techstars program, and we're looking for more exposure. And this was an awesome opportunity to get exposure within the amazing HBS network, but then also to get some feedback, as well, as we were planning to start raising, and knew that was in our future shortly thereafter. And so those were a couple of the reasons for us at that time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then for those of you who are listening in, if you notice, neither one of them said to win or for funding through the program. There were so many other reasons why they entered it. So even if you don't end up being a winner, there's so many valuable things that you can get out of the New Venture competition by participating in it. All right, let's move on to something more little micro. Can you explain, talk about the time commitment for participating in the New Venture competition? Because sometimes people think, oh, it's a competition, I don't have time. Was it a big time commitment, or can you talk about what it was like for each one of you?
I'm happy to start. I think this is going to depend on probably the stage that you're at, whether you've already had meetings with investors, if you've done other competitions. I will say, though, the exercise that it forces you to go through, which is coming up with your pitch and doing it in a very concise way, you're going to have to do that no matter what you're doing. So you've either already done that or you need to do it. And so I think that the time commitment is going to depend on that. For us, we had kind of started doing it. So just sitting down and really trying to think through how am I going to talk about what we do in a short period of time, in the time block. I mean, it's not crazy, and it's probably something you need to do anyway. And the actual events themselves, I mean, you go for a night, you do the pitch. I mean, that's not a huge commitment, but I think that the thought that goes behind it, it just depends, I think, on where you're at. But we found it to be very valuable, and the time commitment was, I think, reasonable.
Great, thank you.
I don't have much to add. I completely agree. Oh.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. I was just going to say, I completely agree. I think the time commitment very dependent on where you are, but honestly, quite minimal, and valuable in terms of, what you get out of doing that exercise, which, again, as was already said, you're going to have to do multiple times. The only thing I would add is that there is, of course, opportunity for you after the fact to follow up with people and to use your time in that way, which I did find to be very valuable in terms of some of the individuals met throughout the experience.
Parker?
Yeah, I thought something that was very important for the application process was making a really clear video that was professional and really communicated why you're doing this, really communicated the value of the customer, really making clear who the customer was. Like I looked at a bunch of other people's applications, and some people had a beautiful application but a crappy video. And you just found that you can just communicate so much more, so much faster via video feed. And this was 2016, it was way before COVID and the entire march towards a more digital nature. So I would say it's really thinking through how creatively and succinctly you can communicate that message. And I forget what it was, like a 90-second video. So I really saw that the people who were able to communicate through that channel was a very important part of the application.
I had to laugh because we actually struggled with that video because Clemens and I were still in different locations. I was still living in Switzerland, and then we ended up trying to cut it together, and we had very different styles because we didn't do it in the same location. So that was a good exercise for us. And probably what took us the longest time, on top of the things that, as Joanna said, you would do anyway to try to get to a concise pitch. So it's a really good disciplined exercise to get there. And then some of the other time you spend, it's really a little bit up to you. As Erica said earlier, if you engage then afterwards and before, how long you pull your travel. We went to Paris to pitch, but then also had a few other entrepreneur friends around that we wanted to see and engage with that also came to the pitch. So if you make it a more of a connective event, it's a little bit up to you in how much you want to engage, right? And how much time you want to spend, but that's all voluntary and yeah, where you want to take it is then up to you, I guess.
Excellent, thank you for sharing that. So can each of you give an example of how the aNVC may have helped you connect? I know you talked a little bit about investors and being able to pitch, but how did it help you connect with potential investors or potential customers? If you can think of an example, a concrete example of how that helped.
I can start. Primarily for us, the follow-up conversations with potential investors came out of the audience, which is amazing. I mean, you do have some who are also judges, but for us, like we knew the audience would likely have angels, and then also people who fit our customer profile. These working professionals who are looking to eat better, right, save time, and do some things more conveniently, but without losing quality. And so anyway, so we found that we did have some great conversations coming out of the pitch, primarily from the audience and being able to connect with some people in the HBS network that we just hadn't met before, but are local, also very much interested in supporting HBS as well as local initiatives and ventures. So that was a really nice combination.
Excellent.
I'd say for us, we use a lot of that positive momentum, right? Like, first coming from Latin America to win, and this and this and this to ink like two massive enterprise deals, like multiple $100,000 deals that were paid up front, which effectively is like seed investing. And that we were purely just riding the momentum of what we had just won. I think we had maybe 3 developers, which is we were miles away from being enterprise ready. But we inked 2 really good deals that we had for. One of them we have to this day, and the other we had for 3 years. And so I would say those 2 deals were probably a cumulative like $1.5 million just from those 2 big enterprises over the first few months. And that was it. So we're very, very focused. Instead of pushing super hard on the investors, pushing hard on people who can give us revenue and essentially start offsetting our early stage costs.
I would add for us, so we're located in Sacramento, so technically we're part of the Northern California group, but the vast majority of the activity goes on in the Bay Area. And so I think one of frankly the struggles of being here is that it's not as developed as a network as, of course, Silicon Valley. And one of the things that actually was really helpful was just seeing that actually there are some HBS people up in Sacramento that we didn't know about, and they could connect us with local angel networks. So I think particularly if you're not in a major city, or I guess technically this is a major city, but just in terms of where a lot of the startup activity is, I guess you could say, it can be helpful because maybe you don't realize that there are a handful of people in your area that will really want to help you because it's not as developed. And so we've gotten to know those people very well, and they've been very helpful for us. I believe we may have received a very small angel investment, but I think mostly it's just been connecting us with local leaders, restaurants that might want to carry our product. So yeah, I think if you're from an area that's not as populated with alumni, it's an opportunity to try to see maybe there are a handful of them that you can meet.
Great, thanks. And Katrin.
Yeah, so for me, it was a bit of a bigger learning than for my co-founder who had founded before and who had raised money successfully before. But for me, that was the first touch point, really engaging with other alumni entrepreneurs, and also understand a little bit the investor dynamics and differences between investors, because you speak to investors not necessarily for them to invest in you on these events, but to have as I said earlier, a safe space where you can maybe also ask stupid questions. And you would meet angels and also people who work for VCs, and then realize the dynamic differences there, or what they look for, because you can have just very unofficial conversations with them. And then the same with alumni entrepreneurs. So I met up with a classmate in Paris who was based in Paris at the time, and he had founded a jewelry company 7 years prior, and he had so many good tips. And throughout, he's remained anyway a friend, but throughout he's been the pathway to reconnecting with questions, right, on trademarking, on founding in Europe, on connecting with investors. We did go back to Paris to pitch to a French-based investor who had invested in him. So the connections were definitely made there, and but the huge advantage also, those are not kind of official conversations, right? They're very unofficial and allow you to ask questions you wouldn't necessarily ask in a normal pitch scenario, right? So it's a very, very safe space, I find.
Thank you. So here's a little different question. Let me make sure I read this right. How did competing help your venture? So the competition part, getting ready for the competition, how did the competing aspect of it help you?
I can jump into this one. It's, go back to those three stakeholders at the beginning. You have to sell people on something that doesn't exist, right? You have to sell employees on a company that doesn't exist yet. You have to sell customers on a vision that doesn't exist yet. You sell, investors on revenue that doesn't exist yet. And it's very hard to get like some of that kind of sales iterations under your belts without experiences like the aNVC. And so it was really effective, just really deeply thinking through, is like, what are the value propositions? How are we going to communicate a sense of confidence to these different shareholders? And then what are the channels, written, physical, video? How are we actually going to communicate in that way that resonates with people? And so it was great because it sat down. It took us, I don't know, probably took us like 4 or 5 hours to make the video. Probably took me like 3 hours to make to write the essays and stuff like that. And I did that with my team, and it was just an incredible experience to sit down and also have like a sales roundtable of saying, what do these stakeholders want, and how we're going to deliver something that really resonates with them, that pushes us through the next step. And so it was a very, very positive experience with my team. I remember the team, even after applying without hearing anything back, we're pretty excited about the entire process.
Thank you. Anyone else like to share? Joanna?
Sure. I think also, I think Parker said it perfectly. I completely agree with that. I think also, once you start, you raise an initial round and you start raising further rounds, sometimes it feels like the stakes get pretty high, and, you're talking to investors that you are competing with a lot of other startups. And so I think that feeling that pressure, it helps you deal with it down the line, because you're going to have to constantly go through that. So I think it's just another opportunity to be in that type of environment, just being under pressure, because it's going to happen a lot.
Great.
I think there's no other pitch scenario where you get the chance to see other pitches and to compare to that, right? And even though I think none of us said, we came there to win, it's a nice thing, right? Because you obviously get some validation that whatever you said was somehow understood or struck a chord there. But the real exciting thing is you don't only just get feedback on your presentation and on your pitch, but you also learn a lot by observing the others and thinking, oh God, that was a really good point, or this was a really good intro, or what made this so strong, right? Or what could they have done better? Because it's so much easier to observe from the outside than analyzing your own pitch. So that learning experience was massive, in understanding what does address the audience in a better way, or what might not have worked so well. So learning from the other pitches, I think, was a huge part of it, and being able to compare and get new ideas and inspiration as well.
Right. And Erica, did you want to contribute?
That was exactly what I was going to say. As Katrin said, there's so much value in seeing other founders and hearing their stories, and seeing how they then articulate that to an audience in a compelling way. And so I used it at the competition really also to pick up pointers for how I would want to evolve my own pitch. And then you also, of course, get feedback, right, in the process of competing. So that came from the judges provide good feedback. It came from the audience as well. So all of that were just inputs into how we continued to improve how we presented the company.
Thank you. I have one last question. What key piece of advice would you give to any alumni considering applying to the aNVC this year?
I can start with three main learnings that I definitely took out of it. One is to set your goals and expectation for the event up front. Like if decide what you're coming for, right, and what you would expect to get out of it. I mean, that's always goal setting. Always helps to then also get what you want out of it. The second one is done is better than perfect. We didn't have a company name, and it turns out to have been a super bad name because. It's really connotated to a different name in German that made no sense. But so, and the third one is to stay connected afterwards, to use the momentum. And like we all do now, it's really enjoyable to reconnect and stay connected with the aNVC over the years and see also how that has developed and reconnect with other founders. It's super valuable. Yeah, but one of the biggest was definitely also the done is better than perfect, to just get it out and get going and keep iterating as you get along and not expecting it to be perfect or perfect knowledge base when you do it.
Great, thanks. I'd like to go next.
I can go. I mean, the only thing I would say is you really have nothing to lose. There's nothing. It's just you just have nothing to lose. It's a great experience. It's a great way to meet other startups. It's a great way to get connected with the alumni community that have started companies or invest in companies. So whether or not you win is really irrelevant. It's really just about the experience of going through it and honing your pitch. And yeah, nothing to lose.
Yeah, I think Joanna was spot on it, is that it's less than a day of work, total asymmetric returns here, like less than a day of work for all those cool things. Like you get to pull your team together and have a really cool experience of discussing value proposition. You get to meet other people, see pitches, put together something you hadn't done before. The experience by itself was really awesome, especially for my team. My team was like so amped. We'd never done anything like that before. And so I think just like the cost benefit is a bit of a no-brainer. We've gotten obviously a ton out of it. Even 6-7 years later.
Yeah, the only other things I would add, of course, agreeing with all of that, would be, don't apply in like a vacuum or in a silo. Definitely get some outsider perspective. And I think even being here today is a good first start to just get a better understanding of what the competition is about, what to expect, but especially as you think about that application and that pitch. Presentation, I found that you could kind of tell the people who had, taken the outside feedback and really refined, especially people I'd met before. And then I would say the other piece is there's obviously the funding, but then there's the rich room. And as much as there are alumni events and opportunities to reconnect, most of the people in the room that we had, I hadn't met before. And so taking that opportunity to not just compete, but if you do have the opportunity to pitch, to really leverage that room, I would highly recommend, because as always, HBS alums are amazing. And so it will be a great place for you to continue to accelerate your venture.
Awesome, thank you so much. What a great discussion. We will be heading into question and answers. Do we have any in the chat? No questions in the chat right now. So I'd like to take just a quick opportunity, and you can please put your questions in the chat or open your mic to ask a question. But before that happens, I'd like to invite some of the regional leads who joined us later to open up your mic if you want to introduce yourselves. So I see Nina is here. Nina, if you wanted to say a few words, and Isabel.
Hello. So I'm a staff member in New York here on behalf of Anna Cortez, who's our alumni representative. And we had 2 different events yesterday. So our team is pretty busy here in New York. It was great to meet some applicants and some new recent grads yesterday. And the New York team is working toward creating a resource library where we'll be able to share a lot of that with you.
Excellent. Thanks, Nina. And Isabel, did you want to say a couple words? Well, I don't know if she can. All right.
Yes.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for this great opportunity to share some news about the aNVC. So as far as the aNVC Europe is concerned, I'm not actually responsible for it. It's Sophie Marchesou and Sarah Assayag, wonderful team. They couldn't be here today. So basically, what we are doing at the moment is we will organize a demo day sometime in December, and we also offer an early feedback program which allows you to test your pitch with and your application actually with some of our experts in the aNVC. And then once you have taken the feedback, or the feedback that you want to take can be used in order to modify your application. So that's a great thing. Almost every winner we've had has taken that opportunity. So 2 things: early feedback and demo day.
Great. Thank you, Isabel, for saying a few words on behalf of the European region. We do see some questions. Is there anyone else, a regional lead or representing here today, that hasn't said something? Just looking on the wall. Okay.
All right. We do have some questions in the chat. The first question is, are there any winning presentations available for viewing online?
We're
going to turn that over to Vinay or the panelists.
I'll say right now, from previous participants, we do not share the presentations online. It's an interesting question. If the company wants to put that out there, we would have to ask them, because sometimes there's just information that they're sharing with the judges. So good question, and I think we'll have to work on this. But as of now, there are none of the presentations from previous winners are online, just because it could contain.
Except for the short finale.
For us.
Sorry.
The
Go
finale.
ahead, Parker.
Yeah, the 1.5-minute finales are on the Alumni New Venture competition website from last year. Parker, go ahead.
Yeah, I think both are, like, my pitch on the main stage in Boston is definitely up. And I'm pretty sure the video we use, which, like I said, I think the video is like 80% of the application, to be totally honest. That's definitely on YouTube. So all of our stuff is on YouTube. I'd have to like dig it up now. It's been quite some time.
They are, yeah, sorry. Just the PowerPoints aren't, but yeah, Parker, yours still is, yeah.
Okay, so
you can find this on our YouTube, on the HBS YouTube under Alumni New Venture Competition.
We don't require those videos to be submitted anymore as part of the application, Parker, just so you know. You might not know that.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. The next question is, who are the leads for the Washington, D.C. area?
So I believe that Washington, D.C. falls in the New York, Northeast U.S. category. And so whoever's asking that question, feel free to reach out to me or anybody in the New York team. I'm happy to put my information out there and we'll get you settled. I also wanted to mention what we were doing yesterday was a virtual panel like this with a winner, but also an advisor training for any applicants who are early starting their application. And we had a bunch of advisors yesterday. So feel free to reach out to us from DC.
No, thank you, Nina, because on the aNVC regions tab on the website, we have a list of all of the regions and the contacts for the 8 global regions listed. So they're all there.
Thank you, Christina. All right. Our next question is, what is the right time in the early stages to begin reaching out to investors? How important is it to perfect your pitch, I'm assuming, to begin reaching out to investors and to consider making your best first impressions for the investor?
So let me jump in on this question. Thank you for the question. We, as the Rock Center, we could give you some advice, but we also put in place what is called the REAP, so the Rock Entrepreneurship Advisor Program. And there are seasoned investors and entrepreneurs there to help answer those types of questions. So they could look at your particular situation and give you some advice and ideas on how to move forward. So we could, if you go to the Rock Center website and alumni resources, the REAP program's there, and you can see our 9 to 10 REAP advisors who are on call for office hours. So that might be a better bet, or, because it really depends on your situation.
All right, thank you, Lori. Okay, so this applicant is in Detroit, Michigan. Which area should they apply to?
That should be the central region, right? Anybody disagree? The central region. So that's based out of Atlanta, and that's where Erica came from. And I don't think we have anyone from the central region on here.
Lori, I'll add quickly that, when we think about where you should apply, you can apply where your company is based in, but also if you do a significant amount of business somewhere. So if you were based, say, in San Antonio, but the majority of your product maybe have a California tie-up, you could choose the Southern California or Northern California sort of pitch. So there's a little bit of determination on your part. It doesn't have to be exclusively on where your company is based. It could be where the majority of your business takes place.
Thank you. And as part of the Q&A, we have a ticker going around the bottom. So I see that there was a question there about, right, the video pitch is no longer part of the application. It's a pitch deck only. And I've been in this role for a year, so I don't have a lot of historical knowledge, but based on what I know, there was, and what Parker said, there was a video pitch that was required, and those reviewed and determined who would move forward and so on from that, but no longer.
All right. So this question may be more for someone who has served as a judge. How are different factors weighed, such as traction, scalability, and impact, et cetera?
Or if one of our regional leads, right, Joe, did you want to?
Yeah, so I'll say something about it. I mean, first of all, you kind of think about it from a, what this whole program is trying to achieve. We look at it, the entire business from a whole. There used to be a rubric for judging, which quite honestly kind of biased towards more developed companies. And I don't think that's really where, you really want to go, because what happens is you wind up getting a lot of also-rans that can show good revenue and traction and planning, but they're copycats of something else out there. So, from our perspective, you're looking for, really something that is creative and interesting. And one of the things that we find is that there's a big difference between a problem and an irritation or a nuisance. An irritation or a nuisance might be one that really irritates the founder, or a nuisance, but it's not something you're going to get paid for. Whereas a problem is something that is, really specific, and you can really show how this moves the needle significantly, and how you're actually going to get paid for solving that issue as it goes through. So I think, we tend to aim more to how well is for lack of anything better, how well is the case developed, and what are the things of, here's what I know and here's what I don't know, and here's what I'm still trying to find out, because I think that provides the greatest value. And then we can also provide that input as people kind of build out their thought process. So there's a lot of people said it's not really, there's really downside to applying. I mean, I wouldn't send one page and say I've got this concept and something else like that. You still want some level of thought process around it, but there's really no downside to go ahead and apply and pushing it through. And so you can go with things that are, they need regulatory clearance, or they're still in prototype, or pre-revenue, or people who've got some revenue and have customers, don't have customers. It's really about the entire package that kind of excites us of what we bring forward. If you've looked at some of the ones that we've brought forward, there've been kind of totally a lot of different stage companies out there.
Thanks, Joe.
Right. Our next question is, would you be willing to reach out to the winning companies or compile a set of great presentations from the past to share out to the prospective applicants?
I'm sorry, I actually was reading. I apologize. I was reading the ticker tape. What was the question, Mary Rose? I'm sorry.
Would you be willing to reach out to some of the winning companies from the past to share out some of the best presentations
we can reach out. We have all their contact information, so we can reach out. Whether or not they provide them, we can't guarantee that, but that would be helpful. It brings the community together. Thank you for that question.
All right. Our next question is, what region does Texas fall into?
Is that Southern
Technically the central one, technically, but again, it's sort of based in, where the business is, where you're doing business. So technically it's in the central region as of right now.
And speaking of regions, one thing that we didn't point out is alumni relations and the Rock Center, we manage the international region. So that means any company that doesn't fall into one of the other regions. So from an international standpoint, international areas that aren't Asia Pacific or Europe. So we will manage that track and provide support to ventures that are applying outside the U.S. and outside of those areas.
Yes, this is a great question. Do we accommodate social ventures in the competition?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
And our last question, I think, that's come in is, have there been applicants from Sub-Saharan Africa?
We have received applicants from Africa, and if you're in Africa right now and want to submit one, that would go to the international track, which is something we manage. Does anyone have any other questions? And feel free to take yourself off mute if you'd like. Oh, we do have one coming through.
The question is, I have a co-founder who is based internationally. Is it important for both of us to be on site?
So if you're big, go ahead, Vinay.
Oh, yeah, I'll just say, so to a point Rachel asked about earlier, there's an Alumni New Venture competition which started in 2010, and the student competition started in 1998. And over time, the student competition involves a business track and a social enterprise track. For the alumni, we kind of bundle them all together. So that's why those are together. And for Pavan's question, last year, we actually moved, and through the pandemic, we moved to for the finale, and on a virtual sort of format. Each of the individual regions, so if you apply to, say, Southern California and are picked as sort of a finalist, it would be beneficial to be in person for your presentation. But in the case where you have a co-founder internationally, it may be something with the specific region to talk about. Can one person attend, and can the other come in virtually? So we don't want that to be. We understand with time and resources, coming out might not be feasible. So I think each of the regions works with folks on that. But for the finale, essentially, it's all virtual.
Right, and also for the international track that's not Europe or Asia Pacific, we will host those judging, that judging day virtually also. And so then the final judging will be done virtually. We host that. So the international track and the final judging. But a lot of the regions are having their regional competitions in person. So I would, as Vinay said, check with them to see what they're doing. All right. Any other questions before we?
There will be a couple more emails going out. So you probably received an email on Tuesday that went out to all alumni, and that highlighted this session that we had today, as well as the session they held in New York. And there's also going to be a question and answer session January 11th with the HBS Association of Boston. But we will be having 2 other emails that go out in early January, and then towards the end of January. That's more information about the competition that goes out to all our 90,000 plus alumni.
Yep. And one of the things that we're trying to do this year too is to look at the applications as they're coming in, as they're submitted, and validating the eligibility of them versus waiting for January 26th, which is when the deadline is this year. So keep that in mind as you're applying. And you can upload another pitch deck. There's a question we get too, that you can upload another pitch deck. If you apply early and want to submit something later, just send it to us and we'll make sure that gets uploaded into your account. And it doesn't, you can wait to submit on the last day. I'm looking at a question that came in. And if you, like I was just saying, if you make significant progress, you can always give us an update if you apply early, and just send us an update by the 26th.
All of your messages from chat scroll around the bottom, so that's what we're all reading. If you see our heads moving as we go around, it's kind of neat how it slowly...
Mary Rose chose the iPad with the chat question and answers in a still form. So thank you all very much. Please send us questions, Vinay, Mary Rose, Christina, any of the regional leads. We're here to support you. And thank you very much for our panelists, our past winners, for sharing all your insights today as well. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.